YouTube channel. I hope it's okay for all of you. Very good. So, let me welcome you all here at our conference on the European elections. My name is István Hegedűs. I hope you can see me. And it's great to have you all here from Hungary and other member states of the European Union and also from outside the EU. I have prepared a short welcoming speech, so if you don't mind, I will read it because I have some views which should be more understood by reading them for you, and I hope they are sophisticated enough in English so you will enjoy it. We will see. So, as you know, is it okay if I stay here sitting, or should I stand up? Can you see me? Okay, everybody agreed. Dear guests, as you know, a week is a long time in politics. This was the saying of Harold Wilson in 1964. When we initiated this conference, the title of my welcoming presentation was much more adequate than it is today. Those who don't know, the title is The Orbanisation of Europe. The urbanization of Europe seems to be much less clear and present danger than a couple of weeks ago. I hope you understand it. Thank you for coming to our event. We will discuss the political implications of the European elections through 1.5 days with experts, scholars, some politicians, and NGO representatives. These elections at the end of May 2019 will be much more European than any contest for the European Parliament ever before. Even if we do not have trans-European party lists, we cannot vote for the President of the European Commission. This position doesn't exist at all. And we do not have a government majority and an opposition facing each other during the plenary sessions in Strasbourg and Brussels. Still, we can observe an accelerating process, what can be called the Europeanization of politics, the penetration of all European issues into the national public debates, and an emerging European public sphere. Ironically, the politicization of the European Union, both in the case of politics and policies, has happened significantly as the consequence of the criticism and permanent attacks by anti-European populist and illiberal political forces all over in Europe. Today, the biggest challenge for the European project is whether hard Eurosceptics and radical right-wing parties would receive altogether 1/3 of the mandates in the next European Parliament following the elections. Now we are back to our main topic, that is the urbanization of Europe. In 2015 and 16, the dominant pro-governmental Hungarian media, it's an entire empire today, portrayed the Hungarian Prime Minister as the new strongman of Europe. Seemingly beyond frustrating infringement procedures and resolutions approved by the European Parliament, like the Tavares report, which had condemned the Orbán government and the Orbán regime as a whole, the leader of Fidesz enjoyed the peak of his political career at European level. He was a well-known troublemaker and influencer inside the center-right European political family. By then, he was isolated as a bilateral partner by most of the leaders of the member states and suffered under negative coverage in the liberal media worldwide. Still, Orbán was able to increase the speed of his so-called peacock dance, as he called it, to improve his slippery tactics vis-à-vis the European institutions. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, having in mind Vladimir Ilyich Lenin's reverse remark on the Social Democrats. At the same time, he constructed himself as the main representative of an alternative ideological concept regarding so-called Muslim migration, invasion, compared to Angela Merkel's human political behavior and openness during the refugee crisis. Following the referendum on Brexit with a tragic result, and Donald Trump's victory at the US presidential election in 2016, Orban prophesied that in 2017 we would enter into the year of rebellion in Europe. As we know, the political climate has changed again and did not follow Orban's wishful thinking. Nevertheless, the Hungarian Prime Minister moved forward with his strategy to have 2 strings to his bow, as we say in English, using the protecting shield of his party's membership inside the European People's Party against external pressure, as well as against the consequences of the ongoing investigations by the European institutions, and parallel, enjoying his new celebrity as a politician and visionary in the eyes of supporters of radical right-wing voters. One foot here with the other there. This political gamble, however, proved to be too risky for Orban. Just a couple of months ago, common knowledge, including experts' views, stated that Fidesz would never leave the EPP, the European People's Party, and the EPP would never expel Orban's party Fidesz. The reason? It is a win-win situation for both of them. According to the pragmatic realpolitik argumentation, a mathematical approach if you want, the EPP is a big party family that needs the votes of the Fidesz MEPs in the European Parliament. Also, EPP can cope with radicals on its wings, both on the left and the right. Moreover, Orban still listens to internal critical remarks, and he is able to change his mind and political decisions. It's probably better to have him inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in, as Lyndon B. Johnson formulated about John Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI in the late 60s. In other words, he is an enfant terrible, as EPP President Joseph Daul stated, but he still liked Orban. He is the kid of our dog. Quite many politicians inside the political group of the EPP held the position that Orban might be wrong on the rule of law, but his views on migration were noteworthy. Moreover, the EPP needs a strong partner, a ruling party from Hungary and from Central Europe, in order to avoid a serious East-West divide. And cultural historic differences, according to this narrative, should be tolerated. Nevertheless, an idealist counter-opinion also emerged and spread over inside the EPP's ranks and files. According to this more moral approach, what does not belong together should fall apart. As new conflicts came to surface each and every year, and the process of the ongoing radicalization of the Orban regime could not be stopped, namely the assumed mitigating impact of the EPP on Fidesz did not work, the political arguments against the membership of Fidesz gained gradually ground. As Orban's steps and measures created international media scandals repeatedly, and the Hungarian politician became more arrogant after winning his third national victory at his third national election in a row, and he neglected and crossed the imaginary so-called red lines drawn by the leadership of the EPP, his Euro party, Orban started to cause more damage to the EPP, not only from an aesthetical perspective, but even according to a cost and benefit analysis. Trust has gradually evaporated before and during the plenary debate on the Sargentini report about the state of democracy and the rule of law in Hungary, Finally, the majority of the EPP political group in the European Parliament voted in favor of triggering Article 7 against Hungary in September 2018. Orbán's flirtation with radical right-wingers like Matteo Salvini, leader of the Italian Lega, made EPP leaders definitely even more nervous. When a new propaganda, so-called information campaign, was launched by the Hungarian government portraying Jean-Claude Juncker, the president of the European Commission, and one of the top politicians of the EPP, together with George Soros certainly, as supporters of uncontrolled mass migration to Europe, this maneuver was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Loyalty is certainly a crucial value inside any organization. Fidesz finally could not avoid its suspension by the Political Assembly of the European People's Party on the 20th March 2019. So the Fidesz-EPP bromance definitely comes to an end. It's certainly a common phrase, especially in politics. I'm talking about those who argue that this break would never happen. Never say never. Today, just 3 weeks after the decision of the EPP, the Orbanisation of a well-established democratic European party family is not on the agenda anymore. I assume that sooner or later, Fidesz will leave the EPP, or the EPP will get rid of Orbán. The escalation of the internal conflict has even accelerated since the suspension of Fidesz, and the pro-Fidesz media in Hungary, in an orchestrated way, urges Orbán to find a new partisan alliance. Certainly, the Orbanisation of the European Union, if this term means the breakthrough of populist, anti-liberal and anti-European political forces at the European and national elections, is still one of the potential scenarios. We will see how Fidesz positions itself after the elections in a changing European environment as a relevant political group. But a full U-turn towards authoritarianism, nationalism, and populism in the near future in Europe is much less likely to occur than we feared some years, some months, or some days ago. The European Union can finally regain its strength after its long-lasting turbulent crisis period and might renew its political agenda with the support of the majority of the European citizens. I wish you all a successful and fruitful conference. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.